Hey everyone, it's James Wilson with BikeJames.com, and today I wanted to talk to you about why strength training is so important for you as a mountain biker. This time of year, riding season's winding down. People are starting to look at, quote unquote, the off season, which whether you want to call it the off season or whether you just want to call it the period where you're focusing more on, getting stronger than just riding your bike, whatever you want to call it. It's always a good idea as a mountain biker to have a period of time when you're focusing on trying to get stronger, because getting stronger can definitely help you improve in some very specific ways. But again, a lot of riders get confused because we get lumped in. We're quote unquote cyclists, and everyone knows that cycling is just a code word for road riding, right? Like 90+% of the time people are talking about cycling, that's what they're referring to. And road riding is more of a classic endurance sport, where strength training is still important, but it is definitely more of a endurance sport. Mountain biking is not your classic endurance sport. Mountain biking is more of a strength endurance sport. Mountain biking has a much higher strength and high tension element than road riding does. And so that's why you have to be careful about judging the value of strength training by what you hear about the value of it is for cycling, because you're basically talking about a different sport when you're talking about road riding. So for mountain bikers, we've got three things that it's going to do for us. So getting stronger is going to do for you that's going to directly impact your performance on the trail and really on and off the bike. Because I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. The point of this is to be able to come at whatever we're doing, whether we're riding a bike or whether we're trying to help a friend move a couch, or whether we're whatever it is, right? We want to be able to come to that with our best version of ourselves and be able to apply that and not be held back by physical limitations and stuff like that. That's in my mind the point of training, is to help us both on and off the bike. So, but specifically, how is this going to help you on the bike? First and foremost, strength training is going to help you work on tension skills that you need on the trail that you don't use enough on the trail to build. Now, basically, if you think about tension skills, this is a term I like to use because it gets people thinking about things differently. Everything from a 1 rep max deadlift to running a marathon requires tension, right? You have to create tension in the body in order to create that movement. And it's just the levels of tension. If you think about, again, like a 1 rep max deadlift, man, that is a super high, like almost as much tension as you can create in your muscles to put into that movement, on that end of the spectrum. Running a marathon, you're still having a move, but you're creating a lot less tension. You wouldn't be able to create the same amount of tension. You couldn't sustain that over the same amount of time. And so it's your body's ability to create and apply tension to movement and then fuel that tension as well. Like, that's basically all sport performance comes down to. And then it's just the specific application of tension to your sport. And so there's tension skills. The skill of creating tension is just that. It's a skill. And creating high levels of tension and doing it efficiently is a skill. And that's what strength training helps you work on and learn how to do, is be able to efficiently create high levels of tension. Now, again, if you think about it, when you're riding your bike, there's moments on the trail where your body, the trail demands that you go into what I've dubbed over the years high tension mode. And we all know what that is instinctively. You got to, you can almost feel it when you think about it. Just your body's just under this massive amount of tension as you're trying to power up or through something. You get this a lot on, when you're downhilling or the levels of tension that your body has to create to absorb those impacts and move your bike. This is a skill. But the problem is that once you reach a certain point in riding, especially after the first year or two, just the exposure that you're getting from riding is no longer enough to improve those skills. You're just not getting enough volume. You're not getting enough intensity to continue to improve those higher end tension producing and fueling those tension skills. And so that's where strength training steps in. It becomes your way to provide your body with enough volume and intensity to get it to continue to progress in its ability to apply these high tension skills in a general way. And then when you get on your bike and you're hitting those high tension moments, your body has access to these higher level tension skills that you're able to apply to these things. And so these tension skills are super important. When you really start to think about your training from that point of view, it starts to look a little bit differently. But that's what strength training does. It's basically that high-end tension creation skills that you're working on. And again, you need these things on the trail, but especially after the first year or two, you're just not getting enough exposure to these things when you're riding to continue to progress them effectively. And so that's why strength training becomes so important. Another reason that strength training is super important for us is it allows you to work on movements that you need on the bike in a less stressful learning environment. And again, one of the things that makes mountain biking fun is that it's stressful, right? Like there's a danger element to it. That's what makes it fun. And it's what attracts a lot of us to it. But the problem is that when you're in this stressful learning environment, it can be hard to slow your brain down and really focus on movement skills. And again, everything that you do on your bike is a movement skill. There's basic human movement skills, and then you're applying them to the specific demands of your sport. In this case, riding a mountain bike. And so a lot of times people's problem when it comes to technical skill is not knowing what to do. It's their ability to actually do it. Their body doesn't possess the basic movement skills, or it doesn't, have them like it needs it, own it like it needs it, to be able to apply them to the bike. So again, like your hip hinge is the classic example, right? So your hip hinge is your ability to move from your hips, pushing your hips back to bring your chest down, rather than bending at the lower back, or even like tipping forward. Like I wouldn't consider this a good hip hinge, like where your weight goes forward and your hips stay over. You'll see a lot of people do something that looks like this, and they call this a hip hinge, but you'll notice, like, you want to push your butt behind your heels, not keep your butt over your feet and just tip forward. This is not the same thing. And so, but if you don't own this hip hinge off of the bike, it's going to be hard to get into good body position on the bike, right? Like again, there's a lot of different examples that I have of movement patterns and how they apply to the bike. But again, that's the most classic example, is you see someone struggling to get into good body position on their bike, and I guarantee you pull them off the bike and you say, hey, get into a good hip hinge position, get into a good deadlift position off of the bike, and they're probably going to struggle with it there. And if they have trouble with it in that less stressful learning environment, there's no way they're going to learn it in the more stressful learning environment of being on their bike. And so at some point, all athletes have to take themselves out of the stress of their sport and put themselves in a less stressful learning environment that allows them the chance to refine and work on and improve these basic movement skills that they need in their sport. And this applies to mountain bikers as well. And this is where your strength and mobility training come in, because again, they allow you to work on these movement patterns and then also stress proof these movement patterns. That's where the tension, skills come in, is the higher level of stress you put that movement pattern under. Does it start to break down? Do you start to, revert to bad movement habits and become less efficient? And that's not what you want, right? Like you want to not only have the movement pattern, but you need it to be stress proof, so that as you're stressing it, it's not breaking down, you're maintaining it. And so again, that's where strength training comes in, because it allows you as a mountain biker that opportunity to get off of your bike and work on these things. And that's going to directly impact your performance, because you're going to be able to apply better movement to the bike, and you're also going to have better movement creation skills and your ability to sustain those things as you get under higher levels of stress, which is what we want. So and then finally, the third reason, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is it helps you avoid injuries, both acute and overuse. And this is super important because consistency is the #1 secret to success. The more consistent you can be with your training and riding over a long period of time, the better you're going to be, right? Like, after 5 years of consistent training and riding, like, you can't help but be pretty good, and so, you have these people who come on the scene and you see like 6 months, they're great, they're doing awesome. But where are they after 5 years, 10 years? That's really one of the things that strength training allows you to do, is look at your riding over a longer period of time, because you're not just focused on tomorrow. Like, you understand that you're building, you're both helping avoid injuries today, and you're building the foundation that you need to help you avoid them in the future. So what I mean by this is, acute, like having some muscle and being stronger, it's one of the best things you can do to help you survive a crash. Again, nothing's going to help you survive all crashes, but again, having some strength, having the ability to create some tension on impact to protect yourself, these are all things that strength training will help you do. And so they can really help you. It's your best natural armor, or your best armor is your muscle and your strength. And so it's going to help you with that, and also avoiding the overuse injuries, because like any sport, you have certain movement patterns that you use more than others, and as you start to get way imbalanced in one area, it starts to create excessive stress in certain areas, and that leads to overuse injuries and pain and stuff like that. And so, keeping your body balanced, thinking about being healthy, really helps. That's where the strength training can come in as well. And so it's that idea of riding for a lifetime, rather than just focusing on doing everything you can to just improve for the next 6 months, and then wondering why your low back hurts and why your knees hurt and all this other stuff. And that's not what you want to do, is train your face off for 6 months and then have to take a couple months off because you're hurt, and then just keep repeating that cycle. So anyway, strength training can really help you. Smart strength training, obviously anything can be misused, right? Like, you can drink too much water, it's called drowning. But don't drown in strength training. Use it properly, and it can really help you out. So anyway, hopefully I've convinced you to use strength training as a part of your really lifestyle as a mountain biker. Like, that's the thing. Being a mountain biker, it's not just something you do on the weekends, right? Like, if you're a mountain biker, you're a mountain biker 24/7. It's a lifestyle. Like, I've said this before, but like the breakfast that you ate this morning, on some level, should have been influenced by your conscious thoughts that, like, I'm a mountain biker. How is this going to impact my ability to recover? How is this going to impact my ability to ride hard my next time I get to go ride? And same thing here. Like, training becomes a lifestyle, because you understand that without it, you can't ride like you want to. Riding doesn't feel the same. It's not as fun. And so training just becomes part of your lifestyle. And as part of that, strength training, spending some dedicated time getting stronger. And when I say stronger, I mean, doing 5 reps or less. There's definitely a time and a place for mountain bikers to be doing that. And so I actually have a podcast at bikejames.com that you can go check out. It's called 5 reasons you should be doing 5 reps or less in your workouts. And I go into all the reasons that doing that will help you as a rider. Because again, I think one of the mistakes that riders make is they hear strength training, but then you look at what they're doing, and they're basically doing some like CrossFit style stuff where you basically turn strength training into an endurance event. And that's not what we're talking about here, right? Like, we're talking about spending some time getting stronger, getting your deadlift stronger, getting your, working on your chin-ups, working on your shoulder presses, working on your squat. And again, it doesn't have to be a, barbell back squat. You can be working on just getting your Bulgarian split squat stronger. But, having some core lifts and spending some time focusing on getting stronger with them is definitely going to help you as a rider, both in the short term and the long term, in a lot of different ways. So anyways, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. If you guys have any questions or whatever, throw them in the comments there. I was just checking to see, make sure everything was good. But yeah, just throw them in the comments there. I'll get back to them as soon as I can. And got any suggestions or whatever, hit me up at james@bikejames.com, or just any questions there. I'm always happy to help. But yeah, like I said, hopefully gave you some fuel for thought. Check it out. Let me know if you got any questions, and I will talk to everybody next time.